Join with me now in the prayer of approach. Almighty God, give to each of us a steadfast heart, which no unworthy thought can drag downward, an unconquered heart, which no troubles can wear out, an upright heart, which no unworthy purpose can tempt aside. Bestow upon us, O Lord, an understanding that leads to a better knowledge of you, diligence to search for you, wisdom to find you, and a faithfulness with which we may finally embrace you. Amen. Do you ever lose your temper?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's very easy to do, other times it's not as easy. There are many things which cause us distress and upset us. You get cut off when you're just coming out of a parking lot or something. Somebody decides at the very last minute to make a right-hand turn in front of you without putting on their indicators. You're supposed to guess what they're going to do. Or you get into an argument with somebody who refuses to see, in your eyes anyway, common sense. Of course, we've had a funeral for common sense quite a few years ago. There hasn't been much in the world since. And if we pick up the newspapers, turn on the television, even check your iPads and the like of that, you discover that common sense is still not around. And that people make decisions without thinking, make decisions without doing any sort of investigation or thought as to the result of those decisions. Is this going to be something which is going to benefit everybody, or is it just going to benefit me? And in many cases, it's the latter rather than the former, because they have to have their way. But there are those strong folk who take each day as it comes with a steadfast approach, with an optimistic viewpoint, and they have the courage of their convictions, and they have the strength of self-control. They do not fly off at the handle. They do not immediately put down the next person without stopping first to think, or to count to 10 even. But they have self-control, and these are the strong persons. These are the ones who are able to face any difficulty that comes along. And I would imagine that most of us here, if not all of us, have gone through situations which have demanded the very best that we have to offer. There's a story told during the days of the British Empire when a lady in Calcutta, India, hosted a party for her friends. Of course, you've got to turn the clock back a lot of years, but it was a beautiful party, and the people sat down for a meal, and the meal was excellent. When all of a sudden, very calmly, very quietly, the hostess said to the servant, "Please put a bowl of cream on the floor and the carpet there." Immediately, the guests knew exactly what she meant, because in that room was now a cobra. And they began looking around. They did not move their feet. They did not move any lower part of their body whatsoever. But their eyes searched every corner of that room. And the snake didn't move until the servant had put the bowl of milk down, because that's what they like above all else. But what was even more astounding was the fact that the snake uncoiled from around the hostess's legs and made its way to the milk where the servant dispatched it. Then the hostess fainted. Self-control. Because everybody in that room knew that if they had been bitten by the cobra, It would be curtains. That would be it. And it certainly would not enable them to have another feast, another visit even, with their friends and host and hostess. To control your temper takes courage. I don't care what anybody says. And at times we snap without thinking. And we know it's not right. In scriptures we are told if you've got something against your brother, well, you go with somebody else and try to talk. No, you don't. You go and try to talk. If they won't listen, you take somebody else with you to try to talk and discuss and take care of the problem. A friend of mine who has been, I guess, somewhat alienated from his son over the years, decided that it was silly not to try to make amends. And so he phoned. But as soon as he started talking, the son slammed down the phone. Well, remember my telling you about the patient in the hospital who was dying, had a daughter just 2 miles down the road, and they had been estranged for years. And the father said, well, I'd like to see her before I go. He knew he was dying. And so they contacted the daughter, who said, yeah, she said, I'll come. Well, a couple of days went by before she showed up. And he had just died an hour before she arrived. That would be unfinished business. She would have to take the weight of the guilt of her portion of this argument, whatever it was that caused her to alienate herself from her father. Because now it was not possible to say, well, I'm sorry. And so we have to be aware of that fact. Not that any of us are going to suddenly say, well, bring a bowl of milk. There's a snake curled around my leg. But at the same time, it is wonderful when we find a reconciliation. And we pick up the pieces, rebuild the association, and carry on. One day at a time. Okay?